My name is Margaret Collins, and for 6 months, my entire world was measured in fabric, thread, and quiet hope. Every morning, I woke before sunrise, and every evening, I stayed up long after my eyes burned with exhaustion, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I was sewing my daughter's wedding dress. Before I continue, if you enjoy emotional, cinematic storytelling about family, sacrifice, and the moments that change us forever, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like mine reach people who may feel unseen, unheard, or forgotten. Now let me tell you how love can be stitched so carefully and still be torn apart in a single sentence. My daughter Emily had always dreamed of a beautiful wedding, not extravagant or loud but meaningful. When she got engaged, she sat at my kitchen table with tears in her eyes and asked softly, almost shyly, "Mom, would you make my wedding dress?" I remember setting my coffee down, my hands trembling as I reached for hers, and answered without hesitation that I would be honored. I had been sewing most of my life. I made Emily's Halloween costumes when she was little, altered prom dresses for her friends, fixed torn sleeves, replaced broken zippers, but this was different. This was not just a dress. This was her beginning, her future, a mother's blessing sewn into every seam. I treated that dress like it was sacred. I spent weeks choosing the fabric, ivory silk, soft lace, delicate but strong. I measured Emily again and again, wanting it to fit her perfectly, not just her body but her spirit. Every stitch was slow and intentional, filled with thought. Late at night, when the house was quiet, memories flooded back. Emily at 5 years old twirling in the living room in a dress I made for her first school play. Emily at 12 crying because a zipper broke the night before a dance and the relief on her face when I fixed it. Emily at 18 standing in front of the mirror in her prom dress whispering "Thank you, Mom." I poured all of that love into the gown. 6 months passed like that, thread, needle, hope. Around the 3rd month, something began to change. It was subtle at first. Emily started canceling fittings, saying she was busy with wedding planning and would come by next week. Next week turned into 2. When she finally came, she seemed distracted, glancing at her phone more than the mirror, nodding politely when I asked for feedback. She said it was beautiful, but her eyes never lingered. I told myself I was imagining things, that weddings were stressful, that this was normal. But deep down, something felt off. Emily's fiancé Daniel came from a very different world. His family was well off, not cruel, not unkind, but image mattered to them. His mother Linda talked often about venues, guest lists, and appearances. She had opinions about everything: designer dresses, luxury florists, imported wines. She never said anything directly to me, always polite, but sometimes I caught her looking at my hands, rough from years of sewing and working, and sometimes her smile felt a little too tight. Sometimes Emily's voice changed after spending time with her. She once said she wanted the wedding to feel elevated, and I nodded even though I did not fully understand what she meant. By the 5th month, the dress was almost finished, simple, elegant, timeless. The lace flowed like water, the bodice hugged Emily's figure perfectly, the train was modest but graceful. I cried quietly when I saw it hanging in the spare bedroom. I had done it. I had created something worthy of her. During the last fitting, Emily said it was really nice. Not beautiful, not perfect, just nice. I smiled anyway. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emily came over unexpectedly. I was in the kitchen ironing a tablecloth when I heard her voice in the hallway. She was on the phone. I did not mean to listen, but then I heard my name. She said she knew I worked really hard on it, but she did not think it fit the wedding anymore. My heart tightened as I moved closer without realizing it. Then she said the sentence that shattered me: "If Mom asks, just say it doesn't fit." My hands went numb. The iron hissed softly behind me, "Forgotten." She said she did not want to hurt me, but it was too simple, and Daniel's mom said people would expect something more designer. She said she did not want people thinking they could not afford a real dress. I pressed my hand to the wall to steady myself. She added that I would understand, that I always did. And in that moment, I realized something far more painful than rejection. She was counting on my silence, my forgiveness, my willingness to swallow hurt quietly, like I always had. Emily never knew I was there. I stood alone in the kitchen long after she left. 6 months of work, love, and belief reduced to a lie she planned to tell easily. That night, I did not confront her. I went into the spare bedroom, took the dress off the hanger, ran my fingers over the seams and lace, and for the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if I did not stay silent this time? I folded the dress carefully and placed it back in its garment bag, knowing this was no longer just about a wedding dress, but about my worth. Emily came over the next afternoon, cheerful and distracted, talking about seating charts and floral arrangements as if nothing had happened. She did not know that every word she spoke felt heavy now, weighted with the truth I had overheard. She glanced toward the spare bedroom and casually asked if the dress was ready. I nodded and said yes, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She hesitated, then said maybe we could try it on later, but there was no urgency in her tone. I realized she was already preparing herself not to wear it. That was when I understood the depth of the silence she expected from me. She expected me to smile, to accept, to step aside quietly so she could replace 6 months of love with something that looked better in photos. That evening, Daniel and his mother Linda came over to discuss final wedding details. Linda complimented the house, the table setting, the tea, everything except the dress. When Emily mentioned it, Linda smiled politely and said designer gowns had a certain presence that photographs demanded. She said nothing directly cruel, but every word carried judgment. Emily laughed nervously and agreed. I sat there, listening, invisible. Later that night, after they left, Emily finally said what she had rehearsed. She told me the dress might not fit quite right anymore and that she was considering another option. She said it gently, carefully, as if delivering bad news to a child. I looked at her and realized she truly believed I would accept this without protest. I told her calmly that the dress fit exactly as it was meant to. She looked surprised, almost defensive, and said she just wanted everything to be perfect. That was when I asked her a simple question: perfect for whom? She had no answer. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. I went to the spare bedroom and brought out the garment bag. I unzipped it slowly and let her see the dress one last time. For a moment, her face softened. Then her phone buzzed, and the moment passed. She looked away. I closed the bag and said I would respect her choice, but I would not lie for her. If anyone asked about the dress, I would tell the truth. Her face flushed with panic, and she asked me not to embarrass her. That word, embarrass, cut deeper than any insult. I told her quietly that loving someone was not embarrassing, but pretending they did not exist was. She left that night upset, and I knew the next step would define our relationship forever. I did not sleep. I sat at the table, staring at the garment bag, thinking about every time I had chosen peace over honesty. By morning, my decision was made. I would attend the wedding, but the dress would not. Not as a weapon, not as revenge, but as a boundary. I called Emily and told her I would be there to support her, but the dress would stay with me. There was silence on the other end of the line, then tears, then anger. She accused me of ruining her wedding. I told her I loved her, but I would not erase myself to make others comfortable. When the wedding day arrived, Emily walked down the aisle in a designer gown paid for by Daniel's parents. It was stunning. Everyone praised it. I sat quietly in the front row, hands folded, heart heavy but steady. During the reception, Emily approached me, eyes filled with confusion rather than anger. She said the dress felt beautiful, but empty. She asked if I had brought the one I made. I told her no. I told her it was waiting, not for approval, but for understanding. We hugged then, awkwardly, imperfectly. That night, I returned home and hung the dress back in the spare room. It was no longer a wedding dress. It was a reminder. Love does not lose its value just because someone chooses not to wear it. The house felt unbearably quiet after the wedding. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy silence that settles after something important has passed and left questions behind. I hung my coat by the door, walked slowly down the hallway, and stopped in front of the spare bedroom. The garment bag was still there, exactly where I had left it. I unzipped it just enough to see the lace and felt a familiar ache in my chest. I did not cry this time. Something inside me had shifted. I was sad, yes, but I was also strangely calm. For the first time, I had not bent myself into something smaller to keep someone else comfortable. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Emily. Her voice sounded different, quieter, stripped of the excitement and noise that had surrounded her for months. She asked if she could come over. I said yes. When she arrived, she did not sit down right away. She stood in the doorway of the spare bedroom, staring at the dress as if seeing it for the first time. She said the wedding was beautiful, that everyone loved the gown, that the photos looked perfect, but then her voice broke. She said she felt like something was missing, like she had left a part of herself behind. She asked why I had not brought the dress. I told her the truth. I told her I loved her enough not to lie, and I loved myself enough not to be erased. She started crying then, not the dramatic tears of stress or frustration, but the quiet sobs of someone finally understanding the cost of a choice. She said she did not realize how much pressure she had been under, how many voices had told her what her wedding should look like, how embarrassed she had been of seeming ordinary. She admitted she thought my love would always be there, no matter how she treated it. I told her that love does not disappear when it is ignored, but it does change. It learns boundaries. We sat on the edge of the bed together, and for the first time in months, there were no phones, no wedding plans, no outside opinions. Just a mother and a daughter facing the truth. Emily asked if I hated her. I told her no. I told her I was hurt, but I was also proud of myself for finally speaking up. She asked if the dress was still hers. I thought about it for a long moment before answering. I told her the dress was made with love, but love is not ownership. If she wanted it, she would need to choose it freely, without excuses or lies. She nodded, understanding more than she had the day before. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal. Emily visited more often. We talked more honestly. One afternoon, she asked if she could take the dress, not to wear it, but to keep it. She said she wanted to remember where she came from, not just where she was going. I helped her fold it carefully, the same way I had the night everything changed. As she left, she hugged me tightly and whispered thank you, not just for the dress, but for teaching her something she did not know she needed to learn. After she drove away, I stood alone in the doorway, watching the empty road. I realized then that the 6 months I spent sewing were never wasted. The dress did exactly what it was meant to do. It revealed the truth. It showed me my worth. And it taught my daughter that love is not something to hide when it becomes inconvenient. If you are listening to this and you have ever poured your heart into something only to feel dismissed, know this. Your effort matters. Your love has value. And choosing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. If this story touched you, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach others who may need the courage to speak up, set boundaries, and remember their worth. Thank you for listening.